objective when I distribute it to people, and let's say to authorize people, authorize many people I want, right? And so they're not stealing my information, whatever that information may be, whether it's a music file or brain waves. So the attractiveness, what I thought when I saw your deck was, because it is being solved today, I can definitely put in a PKI certificate, load it in, read it, encrypt it, but key exchange on the other parties is not easy, it's difficult. Lifecycle management of keys is difficult. Talks about you lose the card, you know, you've got all that stuff. So I know that Symantec is trying to solve this problem, not with hardware keys, but with software keys. They have some technology which is interesting. So that's what I thought the value of this would be as well. And the value, I believe, is the unique parameters, because yeah, there's a lot of different parameters, but I'm still tripping on how the other person gets it.
No, I am too, because Don asked the question and it made it sound like he was going back, but a separate thing, if it's a document, like I have a Word document,
Yeah,
and I send it to a Brar, right, and Brar gets it, and I know he's got it, right, but I mean, what's to prevent a Brar from copy and pasting it on another Word document and send it?
Because both you and he are known part of a transaction of an audit trail. You signed into to get the authority to create that and protect
But
documents.
once he's deciphered it, that's what he's saying.
Yeah, but after you decipher it, you got it, I mean, you say a Brar just goes, oh, cut, paste, new Word document, and that can go anywhere.
But that's where you're going south. We don't do that.
That's when blockchain comes in, right?
No.
That's exactly why the money exchange between the two parties cannot.
What happens when you get a digital asset and you get a view, we don't have a way to show them the obfuscated viewer. Is it run?
But the question he was asking, is, sorry.
But if you just talk about code could right? I mean, that's
Well,
essentially.
because that's
You know where I'm going, right?
Yeah, exactly, because you could send it to me and I could be sitting on my machine and great, I got this information.
Thanks, Mark. I won't forward your document, but cut and paste, and I send it to 30 million
Hey,
people.
do screenshots.
Except the problem is he doesn't have your document. He has a view streamed to him in small sections.
Based on what he's accepted, what he's released to me is what I get.
If
To
you-
release a full stream or a small.
If you told him in your ambulance that he could have a naked, decrypted environment, which is not our native state, if you told him that he can have a view not our native state, then he gets it right, and basically, that's on you. But in the way the system works, he gets an encrypted view over here, and he gets a view of it only for a few minutes at a time, and in a RAM drive that he can't access, it goes away, that is streamed, so the most he could have is some small chunk, that typically 200 KB is a typical chunk size. But that's the most he could ever have of your piece. And we have something called an obfuscated viewer, and that's what we do. Remember I said the problem with encryption is where it's decrypted to, and nobody ever addressed that problem. That's what you're speaking to here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we've solved. We have something called an obfuscated viewer, but the general technology is something called code kits. When you send him something and you said, no, I don't want him to have, then what he gets is when he looks at it and brings up his Word document, what he gets is a stream of 200 kilobytes that fills a page, or whatever you've authorized him to see. And when he goes to the next page, he gets re-authenticated and that goes away. If he's saved it or clipped it or whatever, we're looking for activity on that drive, right? We're looking for, there's no way he gets out of that box with an SEI signal. It's going to go to a unit, a NIC card, it's going out of there some way. It's going to a wireless device, there's going to be some activity. We're looking at all the activity in that box. Okay?
And what would you do with that activity when you look at it?
Yeah.
All we're doing is we're saying, are you actively displaying in your obfuscated viewer something? And if you are, and you're doing behaviors that are verboten, then we're going to shut the whole thing down. And we're going to report that via audit trail back to the owner of the digital asset.
So I send him an asset, and I use my environment, whatever method to protect it, and ambulance there, and he gets it, and it says this is cool, that's his environment.
No. See, I'm responsible for having caused this confusion. We have two different.
Yes.
I
agree. Let them be on record.
We're talking about two different things. For the purpose of the demo, we're talking about email. Email has a unique situation when you have two endpoints and the issue is in fact man in the middle. How do you solve the problem where people at disparate times, different locations?
I mean, I could do
exchange-
Dropbox
okay,
too, right,
okay.
between
No,
partners.
no, but can you bear with me here just a minute?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's one topic of conversation in the email domain, okay? There is another conversation totally different than that that says, I have some entity that I'm gonna send out potentially to the world at large. I don't know who my consumer is, and it's not being sent by email. It's something where I want certain users who I don't know who they are, but you know, basically, if they, typical example, they have paid for my service to download this song. One guy's paid for it, one guy hasn't. Okay? So I have a AMUmail that I create that says, did this guy pay? And I know because we have a payment service that says, okay, did you go to the site to do this, whatever. Okay, so if this guy did not pay, he gets the preview. If he did pay, he gets the paid view, as many as were paid for on whatever devices he paid for, right? So that's one set of problems. That's where you're looking at the word, you're
Okay, but that's access rights or whatever.
yeah, that's the DRM, which now is being managed by a centralized,
But his
yeah,
question
there are
was-
exceptions.
Yeah, but, yeah.
His question was.
No, his had to do with endpoint to endpoint, and that's a different thing. And the only thing different about email than any other endpoint to endpoint is it happens over these dislocated in time and space things. So we've handled that problem, which is because there's more opportunity for man in the middle, or for other things. So we were demonstrating the email, and when we get done here, we'll demonstrate this, you'll see. But essentially the idea there is the way we protect man in the middle is you have your environment, that's where your environment comes into play, and the only time it comes into play is because you're using it essentially as a rubber stamp. You send it, I send it to this guy, and he sends you one in return, irrespective of the digital asset. So now you each have, so you can't see what it is, but you know if you send something with this attached to it in combination with any other thing you want to attach to it, as far as Ann goes, that if you send it with him, he'll recognize this as something that he authorized you to send him. You're both known to the AMUmail system, you're both
Right, I
registered
get that
or
part.
audited.
His question was mostly that the paid for guy, in your example, the guy who's paid for has the asset. Now, he can take that asset and redistribute that without any, that's what he was
Yeah,
asking.
but he doesn't get it, he only got a view.
But whatever view he got, he can send it out, that's what he's saying, doesn't matter.
He will have.
Even if you got
let's
one
go
piece of
further.
data,
If he downloaded a song,
that's what
he
he's
got
trying to protect.
50K bytes at a time of that song that were on a server and the RAM drive went away, and then he got another 50K fed into his player. Cody is the one we support. He gets fed into the player, so he gets another 50K, right? That's on a RAM drive that he can't see, it goes away and changes, right? And so he could capture that, he could sit there and capture it as in a different form, audio thing. But again, we have an obfuscated viewer, and what we're looking at is we're looking at those captures, right? We're looking at activity on the machine that corresponds with his playing through our viewer. We're saying, we're setting a sandbox here. And if we see activity on a hard drive, going out through a NIC card, going out through a wireless port, going out to a USB port, if we see activity other than our consumption of your screen across this one interface that we've authorized, we're going to stop the transmission and we're going to report it. Okay? So, that's actually a rather easy problem to solve, as it turns out. The Windows environment, particularly Linux even more so, is not shy about telling you the activity that's going on a machine when you're doing something else. The first thing that pops up is other process threads. Very easy. Right? We see that. We see, why is this process thread? We actually have it as one of our criteria. What process threads are you going to allow? If you go back to, can you show them that editor's shot? But with process threads, which are named by application in the Windows environment, we can say, hey, if this pops up, or whatever, and we would do that from the standpoint of, we would offer that as a prepackaged set for, we have specific venues that we want to address, Sony being one of them. We want to address it, so we've got some prepackaged things. Well, these are things you do if you're in music industry, right? So you would want to inhibit captures, you would want to inhibit anything. And we even have for the analog devices for capture of the analog screens, for example. We have an obfuscated viewer, which, is that on the website? That's on the website. We have that demo on the website, don't we?
Yes, I don't know, I don't think it's anything you can view per se. Well, right now we've got control of the screen with the email, so we can't.
Anyway, let me get that to you guys. We have a demo out there of our obfuscated viewer. Everything that gets displayed or anything on that box that is done through our control. The framework says, and it's at the behest of the content provider.
So the question would be that I, as the owner of that asset, once I release it to anybody authorized or unauthorized, but authorized, can I stop it from reproduction, further distribution as the owner?
Those are options you can check
That's
in
the
that list
question
of
you
things.
asked.
Yeah, and like, and not necessarily for music, but for like
Documents is more, bigger problem.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, that's the music, because they're all fine.
Well, music, he's talking about, you know, I could just make a copy and send it. I mean, I was talking about, I have some scenarios I wanna test.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I mean, I send you a confidential document, for your
Yeah.
eyes only, no further release.
I wanna
You
see,
should
I wanna
not
see,
be able to
I should not be able to
copy it.
copy
download
that
it.
anyway
And
without
manage it.
Aurora knowing, and I
Put it on a
wanna
USB
actually test
stick.
that.
Because you're only gated, the only way you can get a view
Well,
of
that is possible today with DLP. So with data loss protection, I can tag the file, and I can say that if that's being dragged onto a USB stick on a port, stop it. Don't do it.
Yeah, so I'm not trying to be difficult, but from the DoD, I had to go through every possible scenario, and there's just some in my head that I just really wanna test and just
The
evaluate.
beauty of this thing would be, honestly, where it's gonna be a friggin' fantastic play. I have to be careful with my words. Kids are gonna watch this video. Don't forget I've been revived.
It'll break your heart and stuff, and she lives
Yeah.
with me, she has to put up with a lot more.
Well, you thought you knew her, remember? You said you had to. Is the simplicity
Yeah.
of doing this with a frictionless manner, that's where you knock it out of the ballpark.
No,
Because
exactly.
my point to you is, and please don't take this in any manner except professional colleague to professional colleague. Everybody's trying to solve a problem in a particular way. And DRM is coming out, or DLP is getting popular, but it is very, very difficult and arduous to implement. And it doesn't provide that ownership and the ability to control. It's still at the corporate level. I mean, if I look at the set of rules that we have created, when guys walked in, I said like 1,500 set of rules, and I was like,
Wow.
are you kidding me? This is the issue. We said, this is just the tip of the iceberg. I said, oh my God, my brain's just gonna explode. Just give me 5 rules.
That's
And-
really what inspired this.
Well, yeah.